Hey, folks. The last time I was here, I talked about uh, the state of my union, anyway. And I hope you'll forgive me here for a minute while I get this adjusted and around like this because I'm in a cheap studio and I am just learning to do this, and so my budget is very low until all my advertisers start pouring in. Anyhow, I talked about how disappointed in the way we were. Well, I think what I said is Mr. President, stop embarrassing us in front of the world. Um, I shouldn't have really said that, and I apologize. I just want to start out by saying I apologize for saying that. What I should have said was, Mr. President, stop embarrassing us. Period. I mean, not just across the world. Okay. Oh, pain medicine. I got to take this. Okay, so talk about redneck recording. This seemed to work. I've got a little monitor down here. Tells me how good my volume's coming through, and this seems to be working quite well. I don't have to worry about strapping that thing all over my nice coiffed hair. Oh, I coiffed it. Look, I have this down here just in case it went flying around like this. Let's see, I can do like this. Don't try to do it in the camera, though, because you can't. It's like doing opposite in the mirror. And see, I'll just stay down for another minute or so. Okay, so, oh no, my husband's here. I'm going to have to tame this down a little bit, or I'm going to have to do it a little bit later. I told you he was a Republican, yeah. Listen, I'm going to put you guys on pause because he'll be asleep on the couch within an hour. I'll be back. Yeah, stand by. Okay, so those of you who have your timer on, do I have a clock around here? You didn't see. When I watch TV, they got the clock up in the corner there. I always make sure that I look and see what time it is, because I want to see if the next scene, that they're still in, that only a second's gone by, if the clock's changed by hours, or if it's even changed at all the next hour. So anyhow, there are no clocks here. You can't do that, so you don't know how long was on pause. But I'll tell you, it wasn't him. So I haven't been gone an hour. I've only been gone a couple seconds. So, yeah, I'm trying to make light because, this is the world that I live in. This is the world that you live in. So I try to make light, but it doesn't discount the fact that, it doesn't take away from my feelings of distress in a society that just shouldn't be going on the way we're going on. I mean, just a little while ago on CNN, we're talking about the president coming on. Mnuchin and Pelosi were close to a deal, and the president squashed. And then he come back and said he wanted to do a bit piece, and then he come back and said he didn't want to do this. He wanted to cut it. And then this is the message that we're getting from the leader of the free world. It's bad from the free world. I'm going to turn over here eventually. Oh. So it's fair to be confusing, I guess, for a 65-year-old man who has a history of what good country is about, what good. Maybe not the best, maybe not for everyone, but we've never had a country divided like we are divided today, and the division is coming all from Washington, D.C. My brothers, I tell you, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, you've got to see this. You just got to see that that's where this divisiveness is coming from. You don't want to vote for Joe Biden? Don't. But at least have your pen in hand and write this president of ours and tell him to quit being so freaking stupid. Tell him to be a man that we can be proud of in front of our children. Tell him to be a person that we can quote in front of our children, not like things we can quote like grabbing a woman by or calling people names and things like that. That's what you can tell your children, because that's what this man is. That's not just part of who he is. That's deep-seated in him. Because, see, that's what hate is. St. Paul the Apostle, he said, sweet water and bitter water cannot pour from the same fount. We've never had a president who spoke from both sides of his mouth, one who has lied so much. We're in disarray. We're in a country that is so anxious to blame. You know, these riots going on out in Portland. We don't want to fix, we want to blame. We don't want to know the reason because we already know the reason here. So if we know the reason, we don't need to know the reason. And since we know the reason, we know who to blame. And we're not going to sit by and just stand for it. Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the mentality. We know who's to blame. You know, if you know, it's like the guy standing there arguing with a tree. You know, yes, you know that tree is to blame. It's because of that tree being an oak tree that all of those nuts are all over your yard and you have to work harder. And so you're telling this tree, I have to work harder because of you. You caused all this. To what the oak tree says. Well, the oak tree says nothing. It's a frickin' tree, you know. And that's the same thing I feel about these riots. Number one, I believe that there are some people who are strongly immersed in their political beliefs, so strong that they're willing to what? To kill? Willing to break into your house? Willing to break into your store and steal stuff? Where does belief get separated from felony? And if you arrest somebody, what are you doing? Just got to make sure he's white? If you arrest somebody coming out with a microwave out of some store or something, you got to make sure that he's white? No. No, we don't make sure of anything like that. And I don't think that's what's going on. My point is, what are you really doing? Are you really out there protesting for your neighbors? Who is your neighbor? Who's your neighbor? That's what you should be protesting for, is your neighbor. You folks that are coming from out of town to help the protest, we don't need your help. If we start protesting down here, I hope to God we don't. But I'm telling you right now, we don't need your stinking help. We want to give our citizens a chance to voice their opinions. That's what you should be doing in Portland and these other cities. Get the hell out of town. Let these cities resolve themselves. And for you folks who say you're doing it for a cause, sit back and think about what that cause is. Sit back and tell your child what that cause is. Let your child watch this on TV, these protests. Explain to them. Oh, I'm sure there's a lot that can. I'm sure there's a lot of people across the country that can defend that kind of stuff. White supremacy. Well, why not? If you believe that the lack of a denial isn't okay, then the White House really is okay with white supremacy. Explain that to your child. Shit, explain it to me, how it's not the same. Explain it to me why it's okay. See, I have a problem with, my husband and I, we rarely talk about politics because he believes everything that comes out of Trump's mouth. And even when there's something that he doesn't like, he usually changes the channel and forgets about it. Like when he saw what kind of a fool Trump was during the debates, I could see the look on Bobby's face. He was disgusted. And he even indicated a little bit of his disgust and embarrassment. But that was then. Today is now. You know. But what about today? Today is now. This was just the other day. Today is now with the COVID virus. And, oh, that's another story. I'm just saying, when are we going to get back to normal? Well, I'm going to tell you that we're going to get back to normal when we can finally sit down with ourselves first and decide what our definition of normal is, what we're willing to accept as normal. Because guess what? You may not get your normal. Your normal may run and interfere with my normal or your other neighbor's normal. Who is your neighbor and how normal will you get with that neighbor? It's Psychology 101. Inflection. You know. Then you do what the scriptures say. I know, I shouldn't have said scriptures. I should have said, then you do what that good book says. Well, I mean, my God, it's been around for over 2,000 years. It must be something good in it. You know, and the other half of it's been around for 5,000 years. Must be something good in that too. But let's just take that first one. It says to pray one for another. It says to, what does it say about confess yourselves one to another? See, that's the first part. It's talking. Talking. Talking with yourself, talking with your neighbors. And I don't think that we're doing that. Anyway, we all know that. That's a subject that's just a no-brainer. So I guess my message here today is mostly, I know I said it was about Black Lives Matters, but I'm going to do something just by itself, my reflections on that and why I feel the way I do. But this one here is all about going forward. Vote, but be honest with yourself, with your children, with your family, with your friends. Be honest. Why did you... Well, let me take that back. You don't have to be. Be honest with yourself. Just yourself. Why did you vote that way? You know, what is there in that vote that you did that allowed you to forget all the negative? What was so overpowering? But regardless, please vote. It's important. Your vote is important. Thank you.